Hello everyone, I hope you're having a great day. Today let's learn about multiplying expressions. Now before we start with that, I'm going to show you about invisible signs and numbers. Here I have as an example an X. We're going to fill in the invisible signs and numbers. If there's no sign, then that means it's a plus. And if there's no number, that means there's a 1. And the third thing is, if there's no exponent, then that exponent is a 1. Sorry about that. Let's do an example. Let's say I have x times 3x. So before I can multiply these, I'm going to fill in any invisible signs and numbers. As we said, if there's no sign, then obviously that sign is a plus. So there's a plus there and there's a plus there. Secondly, I told you if there's no number in front of the x, then that number is a 1. It's an invisible 1. And lastly, if there is no exponent here, then there's an invisible 1 there. So here as well, there's an invisible 1. So we've put in the invisible numbers. Our second step is a very nice trick that I learned from a lovely teacher. When we multiply expressions, we are going to use the rule SNL. Now that doesn't stand for sex, nudity and language, but it stands for sign, number and letter. If you're watching, Renika, thank you so much for teaching me this trick. So, from my previous lesson, we know that plus times plus will give me plus. So, sign plus times plus will give me plus. Number 1 times 3 will give me 3. And lastly, letter. Now we learned from the video on rules of exponents that when we multiply, we need to add those exponents. So x to the power 1 times x to the power 1 will give us x to the power 1 plus 1, which is x to the power 2. Simple. Let's try another example. Let's say I have minus x times 3x squared. So we know our first step before we do anything else is to put in our invisible signs and numbers. There is a sign here, but there's no number. So that number is 1. There's no exponent, so that is also a 1. There's no sign here, so that's a plus. There is a number and there is an exponent. So the next thing we're going to do is SNL. Sign. Minus times plus will give me minus. Number 1 times 3 will give me 3. And letter x to the power 1 times x to the power 2 will give me x to the power 1 plus 2, which is x to the power 3. And that is your answer. Let's do another example. This one's a little bit more trickier. Let's say I have xy times minus 3x. So first we do our invisible signs and numbers. This is obviously a plus. No number here, so that's a 1. No exponent, that's a 1. No exponent, that's a 1. I have a sign, I have a number, I have x with no exponent, so that's a 1. But there's something missing here. I have a y over here, but I don't have a y here. Now, I told you, if you have a letter with no exponent, then that exponent is a 1. But if I don't have the letter, then that means there's an invisible letter here. There is a y, and it's y to the power 0. So if there is a letter, it's to the power 1. And if there's no letter, it's to the power 0. And lastly, we use SNL, sign, number, letter. Plus times minus, minus, number, 1 times 3 is 3, and letter. X to the power 1 times x to the power 1 will give me x to the power 1 plus 1, which is 2, and y to the power 1 times y to the power 0 will give me y to the power 1 plus 0, which is 1. That's all there is to it. In my next video, we're going to mix it up a bit and do something a little bit more complex. So until next time, bye.